Topic number 2. Let's talk some Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Still think that's dumb.
Yeah.
Switch has been out for a week. It's selling very well, faster than any Nintendo console in history. When I see that getting... it's funny when you see a story somewhere, and then you see the same story from the same sources on like 10 other blogs, and you're like, this is all the same shit over and over. Okay, that's great. It sold faster than any Nintendo console in history, but what's the burn rate? Tell me that it's going to keep selling that well over the next couple of weeks and months before you start saying, well, financial success, we're done, we did it. I mean, I think that the Switch is going to do way better than the Wii U. I don't think it'll ever hit PS4, Xbox numbers. Clearly, I think it's going to find its own niche like it always has, maybe even do better than that, and that's what I kind of want to talk about. But let's talk about Nintendo Switch Week 1 and some of the funny stories that have come out on the internets about such. First, pluses and minuses. Specifically, it's more fun to talk about the minuses. Obviously, the pluses, it's selling really well. Zelda's basically the only game out there. Zelda is selling like hotcakes. Zelda is the second highest reviewed game on Metacritic in history. Second only, and I think by a point or almost tied, to Ocarina of Time. Everybody that I read about that reviews this game or has played this game all say the exact same thing. It's kind of interesting. They say the same thing but different. Follow me. If that sounds confusing. All of them are saying amazing, redefines the series. You're going to be talking about this game and thinking back on it just like you did Ocarina of Time, how big a game it is. Not just in size, but what a big deal this game is, that it's amazing, that they're just falling in love with the world. And no two people that are playing this game are playing it the same way. Lots of game time. I can't remember his name. I think it's Brian Altano from IGN was talking. He's a huge Zelda enthusiast. Everybody at the IGN office, even people that never like Zelda, are loving this game. And Brian Altano's already put over 70 hours into the game. He's going up close to 100. You can at any time play, how you want to play in whatever order you want to go to. Technically, you could try to go right to the end boss or the end castle right away in the beginning if you think you could survive it. He's put in over 70 hours. Lots of shrines that he's done. He's technically beaten the game by beating the last villain. He hasn't even gotten to one major dungeon yet. Hasn't even found one yet. And there are a bunch of them. And everybody there that's been playing all these hours are still saying they're still going back because there's all this stuff that they had no idea was there that keeps leading to more and more. And that sense of wonder just hasn't stopped. And so they're having a conversation like, how many hours are we going to be putting into this game to see how much it until it starts to lose that magic, because there's no sign it is. This gets me jacked for it. And as much as I have no desire to get a Nintendo Switch immediately for reasons that we're going to go out to, let's first pause here on Zelda minutes. Does this... I mean, I don't know if anyone in this group was planning to buy a Nintendo Switch anytime soon anyway, but off of the reviews and everything that you've heard about Zelda thus far, would that speed up the process of you wanting to get it anytime soon? Because for me, it's starting to lean that way.
I know, because I guess when I look at my console, though, it's never going to be a make or break just with one title.
Sure.
I even back when I ended up getting my PS3 just because I wanted to get Final Fantasy 13, that was still just because I have like my loyalties, I have like my properties that I like to play. But whenever I get one of these things, it's always a long term,
right?
And that's going to be more than just a single game. Even though this is an incredible game, it's just there has to be more to it for me to really just kind of push me into getting it.
Yep. And I didn't expect it to. How about you, Matt?
Zelda's not going to sell it for me.
Right.
I mean, I've heard good and I've heard some bad.
From Zelda or from
as far as for Zelda? I think the biggest one is I'm not somebody that has 6 hours that I can spend at a time playing this. And as I understand it, I mean, this isn't an hour when you can get it in type of game. Unfortunately, the quests are long. The gameplay to accomplish things takes a long time. I don't always have that amount of time. Now, I say that, and then I spend 4 hours playing Borderlands 2 this afternoon. But,
hold on a minute. I'm going to superimpose a graphic at this point. I got to remember this frame so that I can put like a big liar thing up there while you're playing Borderlands in the background or something too, and then put a time frame that speeds up really quick and shows hours and hours and hours go by.
It's that one game's not going to sell me on it.
Right.
And there's just... I look at the Switch right now, and there's too many detractors that I see. So, I mean, I'd love to play the Zelda game. I'd like to see somebody else play it even, maybe. I don't know.
That's the answer I was expecting from both of you, because, again, I think that this is for the same people that would have bought the Wii. Or this is for the Nintendo fans. If you're a big PS4 or Xbox gamer, I can't imagine, as great as Zelda is getting reviewed, anyone saying, well, maybe I should drop another $300 on a system. I just don't see that. But for the people that were planning to get one at some point, I think it's definitely, speeding up those lines to get it a little bit. But anyway, let's talk about some of the other issues with Nintendo Switch. I'm just pumped for eventually playing the Zelda. The only I've been staying away from spoilers to save my life, which now that the game's out there and they're frickin' everywhere, I have to scroll through, and if I even see a picture of a Zelda game, just go past it, because it might be a while before I play this, and I don't want to frickin' know anything. I don't want any spoilers, and that's going to be a fun fight for as long as it takes.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I know. Well, thank God for
just
Horizon.
Take the plunge.
But apparently Nintendo Switch is having some issues with the left Joy-Con with its losing Bluetooth connectivity for only a couple seconds, but I mean that can be a pain in the butt when you're playing a game. It's enough that they're even seeing it from not most are not having this issue, but some are, and it's enough that it's getting enough people complaining about it on the internet. They even noticed it in the IGN offices, that Nintendo's even put out a statement that they're looking into it more and they want more feedback from people, but they're saying it's not as big of a widespread issue as it might being made out to be. Which is possible, because as soon as one person complains about it on the internet, everybody can see, it's probably thousands. I mean, we really have no way of knowing. And this is also something that is pretty common for a new system when it comes out. I mean, there was issues with the PS3, the PS4, and Xbox, all when they launched, that came up with software updates. For me, if I was someone that was close to getting a Switch, I'd want to make sure that this was something that was patchable by software, because Nintendo is apparently replacing defective left Joy-Cons by mail. I'd rather wait for the hardware revision to get fixed this issue, whether it's in a few months or whatever, and not have to deal with that. Nothing would be worse than getting pushed over the edge to get a Switch when all you can basically play is Zelda for right now, and finding out you're not going to be able to play for another week or two while that thing sits on your shelf because we got to get that Joy-Con replaced by mail. That would fucking suck. But we'll have to see how that gets worked out. A couple of Wi-Fi issues. But the big thing that I wanted to talk about from Nintendo that I thought changed the game, I don't know if that's maybe a little too strong of wording, but added some value to it, was that Nintendo Nindies announcement that they did last week, where they showed all these out of nowhere, like 60 independent developed games, and a lot of looked really freaking cool. In fact, there was a lot of games with the pixel art and retro stuff. Blaster Master Zero I thought looked awesome. The Shovel Knight and the new campaigns has already been great. We've talked about that on the show before, but a lot of other games too that looked really good. Especially, it almost felt like, man, if you like the renaissance of retro games that use pixels, boy, Nintendo could be your freaking dream console, because that'd be great jumping into Shovel Knight and some of these other games, on the airplane or when you're on a trip in the car. I can't imagine playing like Horizon Zero Dawn on a tablet, while I'm going somewhere, but I could definitely play like Shovel Knight while I'm on an airplane or something else like that too. I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts. What did you guys think about the Nindies announcement?
I mean, I liked them that these publishers, they're not looking to generate like a AAA title. Some of them they do have a pretty strong graphical performance, but a lot of what they're getting down to is just innovative gameplay. Yeah. Some of them are from an 8-bit or 16-bit level, and they're kind of inspired almost from old style gaming. Whether it's what was it, Hawaii Shakedown. That one was looking pretty good as far as your classic just kind of run around pixelated guy shooting 3D. Apparently also burning down a forest in Hawaii with a flamethrower. I thought that was an interesting approach, but I'm gonna give the people what they want. But yeah, a lot of Blaster Master was another good example.
I didn't see that coming at all.
No, and again, a lot of these, the way that they're putting these together, there's also, they're including kind of a multiplayer element to them. The Escapist Part 2, that actually looked pretty interesting. Again, not a highly graphical fidelity kind of game. But the big thing I did see was the Stardew Valley. That one I would actually be more inclined to get the system just because of that one than probably Zelda. Right. Just because
actually when I saw that I was thinking that,
I mean I love Harvest Moon. I love kind of stuff like that, and actually incorporate this one's a little bit more expansive than just your basic Harvest Moon, but also being able to engage in a multiplayer function with that one was I think that's going to be pretty slick.
Yeah, this is going to be something nice to kind of fill that void after Zelda's given a wide berth. Obviously, people are going to be playing Zelda probably for the people that's why they got to switch to begin with. A lot longer than maybe we were assuming they would. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, they'll have it for a month, and then they're ready for the next title. Well, you could probably stretch Zelda out a few months, even if you were like playing it a lot if you chose to. I'm probably going to put a lot more hours into Horizon Zero Dawn than I planned on. But this is kind of cool that it's giving. I don't know if it's completely filling a void as far as not having AAA tiers, but
it gives content where content is really needed, and that's what the system needs.
And it really fits that system.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is kind of gonna, if you want to, and I'm going to use the term here, kids, so let's be mature about this, fill the hole that Sony didn't do really well with the PSP or the Vita. And, you know, drink your Fiji water. When the Vita first came out, and then all of a sudden all major third-party support died, it's become the platform to go for indies, and it's great having that traditional controller aspect for people that don't want to just play mobile games on their phone with a touch interface. But it's kind of died into just third-party indie games. Now having Nintendo, I think it's just basically going to swallow that whole market. And you also have premium tier Nintendo games for the crowd that loves those and are very passionate and loyal to that. I think this is great. This is a window that I knew we'd eventually see independent developers on this console. Nintendo talked about it, but I didn't expect so many, and so many that I would be actually interested in playing so quickly. I thought that this was cool and added a lot of value. Matt, what were your thoughts?
A lot of the same games. I really liked the way they looked. I liked the Steam one.
The
I can't remember what it was.
The Dig?
Steam World.
Oh, Steam World Dig 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one I thought that one looked great. I guess my concerns with that type of thing falls more back on the Switch itself. I mean, how much do these titles cost? I only got 32 gigs.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you're putting it somewhere.
Right. Well, that's interesting. Well, let's talk about that because that's a good point. It comes with 32 gigs of memory. If people are going to go digital, obviously Nintendo's recommend you getting a micro SD card, which you can get one. I mean, you can get a 128 gig card for like what, $30 or something. I mean, they're pretty cheap, and that's going to come down over the next few years. Eventually, you'll be able to put up to 2 terabytes of storage into the Switch. Now, that's not even available today, but just having that possibility out there and having cheaper storage to put in there is going to be great. The games that kind of have an old school retro feel, like let's say Shovel Knight or Blaster Master Zero, those games are in the megabytes. You know what I mean? I mean, they're so small you could probably put every single indie on there and it would barely scratch the surface. And not all of them. I'm sure some of them maybe start to get into the gig range, but when they're small pixel art like Shovel Knight, those games there's a few hundred megs. You know what I mean? I mean, they're tiny. Now, the pricing structure that they're showing, which something else I also wanted to talk about, I'd be way more pumped and primed to buy some of these, like Shovel Knight with 3 campaigns, like 3 whole campaigns for $25 versus 1-2 Switch for $50. Fuck you, Nintendo. You know, that game, if you didn't want to make it a packing game, fine. That game should have been $25-$30 tops. And the fact that you're charging $50, but then you can get a full class. I mean, Shovel Knight's a deep game. It's like a full mega. You can play that game for a long time, and it is fun. And that's $25 for 3 campaigns. 1-2 Switch, $50. That's what keeps going through my head, and I'm like, that is fucking bullshit. And I hope nobody buys that game so that you drop it down to $20. Because from what I've heard of people playing that game is if you forget what you want in games and just understand what this is intended to be, and you take it to the restaurant or your friend's place or out on the picnic table, and you just have them interacting, because I guess there's like, 40 to 60 interactions that we haven't even seen that you can do. Everyone that's done it has said, okay, it is really fun when we're goofing around doing some of this stuff. Some of the stuff you might have seen might look goofy, but it is kind of fun and people are laughing, and it's getting them to engage with people, which I think that we need more of that. Not what I necessarily look for in video games, but again, that's not what Nintendo was trying to do with that particular game. But the fact that you charge $50 for it, I just don't think the value's there.
Yeah.
So when
this
you ask
about Mario Party,
exactly, yeah, except not Mario Party, bigger, more fleshed out game, and you can play that one player with computer opponents. 1-2 Switch is multiplayer only, and from everyone that's played it, you can't really do anything by yourself. You know, another thing. Let's be adults. You can't really do anything by yourself. Jesus. I wonder if I can blur that out in Final Cut. Pixelated. What's he doing?
That's just
going to make it look worse.
Yeah, probably. Well, it's like that thing where you bleep out random words to make it sound like we were swearing all the time, even though we weren't. So my guess is the pricing structure for indies is going to be basically supply and demand, and not just Nintendo, but independent games have traditionally gone for the lower price and shot for volume. So you're probably going to get more bang for your buck with a lot of these indies than you're going to get with a AAA game like Mario that's got $150 million budget. So I don't know. I just thought that was cool. I didn't expect that it would move the pendulum for either one of you guys to jump on getting one. But I just thought that this definitely added a lot of value to the Nintendo Switch, especially the state of where it's at right now. Because I'm sure that, a year from now, and the Nintendo Switch is going to be a different place, more options with... Oh, that's something else we'll talk about really quick as we close out this topic. So how do you guys feel about this? Hypothetically, if you did have your own Switch, you can put your micro SD card in there for more storage, or you can do the cartridges. Yep. But you cannot... Number one, if you download the game digitally, which everybody knows I'm a fan of doing, you can at any time delete the game and re-download it anytime you want to, which is great. You can only do that to one console at a time. And a lot of people are getting upset about that, and that's kind of frustrating if you've got multiple Switches for the kids and the parents or whatever in a household. I'm assuming you might want to be logged into more than one that you could just, play your games however you want to. Maybe you can only do one at a time. Wherever you're logged in, you can't do the other two. But, Nintendo's so overprotective of this stuff. Sure. They have content protection on Mario Run on the phone. You can't even play that unless you're connected to internet, which I still think is fucking ridiculous. But you cannot download a game to more than one console, more than one Nintendo Switch, unless you first completely log out of that old Nintendo Switch, log into the new one, and identify that Switch as your primary. Well, if you leave your Nintendo Switch somewhere, the simplistic nature of getting it replaced, logging back in, and re-downloading the games you've already paid for now gets very difficult. You have to go through a long process of Nintendo of letting them know what happened, and you cannot do anything while your old data is still on the old Switch. And you cannot transfer any save data because save data is not stored on the cartridge. It is stored on internal memory only, not on a micro SD card like the games can be, so you can't take that stuff with you. Does that stuff bother you guys today?
It's always issue. Bothered me. But
yeah.
But is that any different?
My kid drops the Switch, and I got to get another one.
Totally agree with you, and I agree with that.
But here's any of those games then.
Yeah, no, I agree with you guys, and I feel the same way. But here's my counter argument. How's that any different than the way your games are being played right now? Because unless you play for, let's say, PlayStation, the PlayStation Network, you don't get cloud saves. So if something happens to your PS4, you're just shit out of luck. You don't get your saves. If you pay for the service, they save all your saves in the cloud. So then if you go to someone else's house with the PlayStation 4 and then log in with your account, then you get all your save data. But do either of you have that right now? Is that any different than what you have right now?
No. I mean, I don't use that for PlayStation.
Because I was just wondering, I agree with you. I'd want to have it, but I started thinking, I'm like, I don't have those options now. Sorry, say that again?
No, the saves I would lose, but I still have the games.
Well, yeah.
Since I'm on a PS3, I'm doing everything off of the disc.
Right. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying if we eventually move to the digital-only platform.
Yeah.
I agree with the frustration. It's not how I'd want to, but the more I think about it, I'm like, but that's kind of the way that most people are already using their game systems now. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just was wondering if that was really a deterrent for people that were on the fence with a Nintendo because, A, do I think that they're going to eventually change and fix that? Yeah. There's no way I think a year from now you're not going to be able to move your save data to the SD card. I don't buy that. I think eventually they're going to either have so much pushback or just maybe there's only so many features they could get out in time before they launch the Switch because clearly they launched it before they had a big library ready to go. I think that that'll definitely get patched, so I just don't think that that's a big issue.
The limitations of the drive itself.
What do you mean? The storage size?
These things ship out. Yeah, these things ship out. And you got, I think with all the stuff, they said that there was only like 22 or
27 gigs, yeah, free to use with games.
So then you put a couple of games on there, and then you have all of your saves from your other stuff. I mean, it could be...
Yep. No, I agree with you.
It could create issues.
Would you agree that that's also, though, a potential positive? Because I would much rather have just a slot for micro SD where I can put in whatever storage size I want without adding another $100 to $200 to the console itself. You know what I mean? Because if you just want to go cartridges, you don't need micro SD storage. You know?
Well, yeah, dude, it is cartridge based, right?
Right. It'll either play cartridges or you can download them off the Nintendo eShop and save to either internal memory or your own micro SD card in the device. I would rather have
the cartridges like the DS. Do they have their own storage?
For what? What do you mean?
For like the DS games.
Oh, right. For like save data and stuff like that. No, all the save data saves on the internal memory of the device. Does not. So if I like got Zelda and we both had Switches and I gave you the Zelda cartridge, my save data is not on that cartridge. It's on my Switch.
Okay. I guess it's fine. I mean, if that's how they want to do it. I just know that with the DS, it's all saved on the cartridge. It saves
on the cartridge. Yeah, I remember that because they said that this is the first time that Nintendo didn't do that. I just thought that was fun to talk about because when I saw some of the outcry pretty substantially a lot of places of people complaining about that, I agree it's not what I want, but that's fixable through firmware update, which I think they'll do eventually. What did they just launch finally, 3 years later for PS4? You can finally use external drives. Finally. And then the custom wallpaper. I put a fun one on Dan's PS4.
God, scared the hell out of me. He's watching me. Always.
Maybe I'll put a quick scrscreenshot of what that looks like.
Yeah, I wouldn't. You know what? I would not be opposed to that, just so everyone can kind of see when I flipped on the TV right when the PlayStation starts up. I just get this face on this.
He already knows because I already sent him a picture.
Oh my God!
You know how excited he was about this. He called me immediately to show me what he'd done.
This is the lack of maturity that I'm still.
The horror.
This is a person is I was so jacked to take the dumbest picture of myself I could and put it on his backdrop so that when he logged in, I just wanted to imagine. You know what he's gonna do is what the fuck? That was playing in my head. And Matt knows he was right. I called him and I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, and what the fuck I did. That was.
See, we make our own fun, people. All right, cool. Well, I just thought that was fun to talk about as far as some of the issues, because especially when people get that vocal about it on the internet, I just think it's interesting to calm down and think about, well, do you have that now? And a lot of times people don't, but we still complain about it. I would still want those features too, but I think they're definitely coming too. So for those of you watching, if that's important to you, I'm starting to lick the pop filter. That's how we get repeat views. Let us know if that stuff's important to you on the Nintendo Switch, or if it changes your opinion on purchasing it.